Okay, hi everyone. Welcome back to my channel. And I do like these Instagram Q&As, and there are always two topics that I am asked about a lot. So I'm going to try to cover both of those today. This one right here is about our periods, which is why I'm wearing red in honor of our periods. Just my dark humor. But I get asked a lot, and I think it's maybe because I have a very high female following, and a lot of you are young girls moving into womanhood, and you know, I mean, us starting our periods is huge. And so I do want to say right off the bat, if you have a mom, talk to your mom about it. I always feel comfortable about asking your mom questions and talking to your mom about your body. It's something that you should never ever be embarrassed about. Also, if you're a guy, you're not going to want to watch this, because it is going to be like really in depth about our vaginas and our periods, and I'm just going to be like flat out blunt. I mean, honestly, blunt. So I'm going to talk to you all as the same way I'm going to talk to Lily. And so I'm talking to you as if you're my daughter. And so I'm going to tell you everything that I want Lily to know. Everything I'm about to tell you is my experience and my point of view. And your family may be a little bit different. But I'm going to like talk about everything. Like, I'm just going to be as blunt as possible. So here we go. Okay. One of the questions I always get asked is, when did I start my period, and the story behind it. So here we go. I remember it so distinctly because it was New Year's Eve. And I would have turned 13 March 31st of that year. So I was 12 and 9 months. We had a friend come over. He was dropping off some food for the New Year's Eve party. And I went to it was a guy friend too. Went to the bathroom, and sure enough, I had a little bit of blood on my panties. It was not like bright red blood. It was not like I had died or anything like that. It was probably like a darker brown. But you know, every girl knows what it is. And I was one of the last girls in the neighborhood to start my period. Like, all the other girls had way started their period, and they were growing boobs and looking so pretty. And I don't even think I even brushed my hair at that point. Like I wanted to be like a pretty girl, but I just like to play and run around outside, and I was like a super huge spaz. So sometimes I think I brushed my hair every day, but probably not as good as I should. So my hair was my mom used to perm my hair too. So some of this hair would stick out a little bit like that. I went around with bedhead a lot. Anyway, so I started my period, but I was so nervous not to tell my mom, but the guy was there. Like, what are the chances of having a guy friend over when I'm starting my period? So when he finally leaves, I tell my mom. She was great about it, gave me a pad. And I want to tell you, back then, so it would have been 1982, 83-ish, our pads were I swear, they were this thick. You know, they're not like the nice little wonderful pads we have now. So I felt like someone just stuck a pillow between my leg. Between my legs. And it was a really weird feeling. I felt like I had this huge thing between my legs, and then when I walked, I felt like it was going. I just felt like everybody knew. And it's just awful. And I was so nervous going to school. So you're going to school, and I don't know if girls still do this, but back in the day, we would tell a friend I'm on my period. Can you tell? And they'd have to, and your friend would kind of walk behind you and do quick look down, to make sure you weren't bleeding on yourself, or you didn't have you got your butt crack, but then there's a big huge pillow below your butt crack. Anyway, high school. So I wore pads for a while, and then I was a cheerleader, and so back then, at least in the 80s, our skirts were still pretty short. And we wore our bloomers, but then now what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to wear this big huge pad with my bloomers? Everyone's gonna notice that I got I got a pillow. Oh, and back then the pads didn't have wings. You know how, so girls, if you haven't bought a pad, you got the pad and you got the little wings that wraps around your panties so you don't bleed all over your panties. We didn't have that back in the day. So what happened is the pad would kind of squish like this, and so you would bleed, but then you'd bleed on your panties. It's just a mess. Seriously, just a mess. So yeah, so now you'd have to worry about bloomers, and are you going to bleed on your panties, and are you going to bleed on your bloomers? Awful. Anyway, so my mom talked to me about tampons. and it was so scary. And I didn't do it right away because just the thought of sticking something up in there was like freaking me out, and would it hurt? But eventually I got the guts up to do it. So now we're going to talk a little bit about tampons, okay? Obviously start with the smallest size, and when you attempt it, do it when like your flow is nice and good, because you'll be very wet in there. Because if you try to stick a cotton tampon up in a dry cuckoo, it doesn't feel good. It hurts. It's not like pain, like you're gonna scream, but it's not comfortable, and you may not even be able to get the tampon all the way in, because it's just skids to a stop, and then like you may have like some of this much tampon hanging out, and then it's gonna bend. And some of you that have had periods for a while, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, so whenever you do attempt it, definitely do it when your flow is nice and heavy, when you're alone, you have no pressure, nothing. Also, girls, there is nothing wrong with you looking at your vagina and everything. Look at it. Look at it. So I got a mirror here. This is your friend. Stick it between your legs and look at your body. Look at it. And so you need to know, like, obviously we're gonna know where our buttholes are, but you know your I'm calling it your vagina. I don't know what the labia is, like all the outside stuff. And then you can see like where when you pee, you're going to be able to see like your little pee hole. And so learn what you look like. And I also want to tell you that your all of that, because really your vagina is just like the inside, but like all of your girl parts looks different than every other girl. Like all of us look different, and it's okay. It's okay to look different. There's no perfect vagina, or there's no perfect tootie toot. They're all different, and that is okay. Own it, because that's what your body is and what you look like. Own it. That's it. It's not ugly. It's beautiful. So, but use the mirror when you're trying to put the tampon in. It'll really help, because you can kind of line it up a little bit. You may want to stand up, maybe put one leg up, or then put the mirror all up in there. Just do it. Just do it. So there you go. There you go, the tampons. When you start using tampons too, especially like on my heavier days, I'll wear a tampon and put a panty liner on, because there's nothing worse than an accident. So it's always nice to have a little panty liner there. So tampon, panty liner on heavy days. All right. Now we're gonna. I'm going two different directions. So, second thing, never be embarrassed to go buy tampons and pads. We're women, we have periods. So what? Are you embarrassed when you go buy toilet paper? Because the toilet paper is being used to wipe your tootie and your butthole because you go poop. So it's a natural function. So what? If you have to go get tampons and pads, so what? There you go. No big deal. You need tampons and pads. It's just part of life. You're going to be doing it for like the next, let's see, what am I, 48? So what is that, 35 years I've been having a period. So what? Just get used to it. Not embarrassing. You don't get embarrassed buying toilet paper or tissue to pick your nose. So don't be embarrassed to, get something to whenever you have your period. All right, let's go back to learning your body a little bit more. The reason why I think this is really important is because our bodies change throughout our cycle, and our cycle is like basically 30 or 28 days. All right, your body's going to change. You're going to have discharges. They're going to be a little bit thicker at times, a little bit more stringy at times. Things are going to smell different at times, and you need to know what your body is supposed to look like and what it's supposed to smell like. Okay, and it's gonna sometimes smell a little bit different, but when you know what is the right smell for you, and then when it smells a little different, don't panic, because it is going to have a different smell throughout your cycle. But if it smells bad, you still don't need to panic, but it may be that you need to see a doctor. And a couple of the reasons why it may smell, why I'm saying bad or just a little off, is like, so our vaginas have a pH, and it needs to be in a certain range. And when it's not, you can either get like a bacterial infection or a yeast infection. So a yeast infection will mean that it's going to get kind of clumpy in there. It's going to itch, and if it's mild, you may not notice. It's just a different smell. But if it's like a flaming yeast infection, it's gonna itch like crazy, and it can be your discharge will be really, really clumpy, like they say, like a cottage cheese kind of thing. And there's nothing, if something doesn't feel right, you need to stick your finger in there and see what's in there, and you'll know. So that is a yeast infection. Back in the day, you used to have to call a doctor, but you can get something at the drugstore now. But I personally do like they give you, you can take a pill that gets rid of the yeast infection, and that's really nice. You can also have a bacterial infection, and that's when your pH goes on the other end of the scale. And that has, you know how people say that like it smells like fish? If you smell like fish, you have a bacterial infection. That's not an STD. It doesn't mean you're dirty, doesn't mean you haven't been cleaning yourself. It means the pH inside of you, it's just off. And so he's going to have to give you an antibiotic to get that back to where it needs to be. It's gonna kill the bacteria that's growing up in there. The only thing is sometimes that antibiotic can then cause a yeast infection, which is absolutely crazy. So then you may have to take something for the yeast infection. It's just a mess. And the same thing with like a bladder infection. You can get a bladder infection. And so now I'm jumping all over the place, but girls, with a bladder infection, you can get it from having sex, because you know when you're having sex, like stuff can get pushed up in there. The friction can kind of irritate it, but also sometimes, like, you know, because our butts are so close to there, so you never wipe from behind to the front, because what you're doing is you're smearing all of that butt junk up into your toot and up into your pee-pee. So you don't want to do that. You always kind of like, you gotta go behind and like up this way. All right, so push everything towards your butt and not like away from your butt. All right, and that's like and really, even if you're wiping properly, just all of that's really close together, and it can just give you a bladder infection that way. So then, even if you're on a bladder infection and you take medication, you may get a yeast infection from that. It's a mess, y'all. It's just a mess. That's all I can say. Also, your periods can change your pH in your down there. If you have sex, it can change your pH down there. There's just so much that can throw everything off down there. So that's the reason why you need to be very familiar with your vagina and what she's supposed to look like and what she's supposed to smell like and what is a normal discharge for you. I always get like the question like, what is the most important thing about periods? What's like, you know, so dispose of your products properly. I don't mean you have to flush them down the toilet. There are some places that you can't flush them down the toilet, like tampons, because it'll clog it all up. What I mean is that I cannot stand it when I go into a bathroom, a public bathroom, and I look down into the little trash thing and there's somebody's open up pad with their blood or their tampon just thrown in there. Nobody wants to see your blood. All right, so what you do is you get some toilet, so you take your pad off, you roll it inside of itself, okay? Then you get toilet paper and you wrap your pad up like this, like a mummy, and then you throw it away. That way nobody sees your period. Same thing with the tampon. You pull the tampon out, wrap it up in toilet paper, wrap it up enough so like the blood doesn't leak through. You throw it away. That's, anytime I say proper disposal, that is how you properly get rid of that. And then if this is your own home, that trash needs to be emptied out every single day, because that stuff's going to smell. Just that period sitting in there is going to smell, and people are going to smell it. Plain and simple. When you're on your period, you need to clean yourself. I'm not talking about douching. I'm not talking about soap and water and scrubbing it. I'm saying you need to take a shower and you need to clean it, because if you don't, especially if you're wearing a pad and you go like day 2 wearing a pad and you haven't cleaned your stuff, we can smell it. you can smell the period, and it's not a good smell. It's not. So, and it's not that your period is gross, it's that all of our periods will have a smell. And so you got to clean yourself down there. You just have to. And change that pad frequently, because otherwise it's just gonna have, like, you're gonna have an aroma and nobody's gonna tell you. It's just, you're just gonna stink. Alright, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think I covered everything. Oh, maybe one last thing. Pap smears. So what that is that you go into the doctor and he checks you and he checks your cervix. It is not painful at all, but I will admit it's probably a little uncomfortable and a little embarrassing, even though it shouldn't be embarrassing. But you know, it is like a guy or a woman, like just a doctor, you know, like right up in there. But you need to start having a pap whenever you're either 18 or when you become sexually active. Whichever comes first, that's when you need to start, you know, checking that out. So even if you're a virgin at 18, you still need to go ahead and get a pap smear. If you're 15 and you start having sex, you need to have a pap smear. That's just what it is. You need to check down there. And they're not just checking for STDs, they're just checking for the health of your cervix. And then, you know, they'll go ahead and check your breasts. They'll start checking your breasts for lumps. They feel for your ovaries. It's just a lot of stuff. And it's important to keep all that healthy down there. Another thing, everybody's flow is different. So some of you will have very heavy periods and some will have very light periods. And that's okay. It's just everybody's body is different. That's the reason why it would be best when you talk to your mom to find out, because if your mom had a very heavy flow, you might have a heavy flow. And I did, as time progressed, I did start having very heavy periods, and also really bad cramps, to where I had to, the first day I couldn't do anything. And so I did get put on birth control, because the birth control can lighten the periods and also help with the cramps, and they really did. It didn't really help that much with the flow, but it did help with my cramps, because my cramps were really bad and they hurt so badly. What's really interesting is that my periods used to be so heavy that, like, I thought that I was going to run out of blood. And then after I had Tate, which was my 5th child, my periods got a lot lighter, and I'm on, like, right now I'm on a mini birth control pill, and I had Lily, and periods still stayed light. So I'm calling them light. They're probably just more normal, but compared to what they used to be, it was like 7 or 8 days tampon and pad that I would just go through like crazy, where now I only have like maybe 2 really heavy days like that, and then the days, like the one day before, like maybe 3 or 4 days after, it's just more lighter, more I was honestly probably just more normal. But everybody's are different, and you know, that's the reason why you want to talk to your doctor, because he'll explain all that to you as well. Okay, I think I covered everything. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this. You know, if you have friends that have questions, just let them watch, and I hope this answered a lot. And so if you want to check out my website, you can check it here. And if you want to subscribe, click here. And then the most recent video, I guess, click here. See how that works. And remember, check me out on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. All of that is Sheri LaBrant. Okay, all right, bye.